This is Kenny Tam. Welcome to Real Estate License in 14 Weeks. This is episode 20 of Starting from Zero. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 6, Financing Part 2. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell so that you can receive first notification of new releases of my videos, and also share my video with your friends. What is the Federal Reserve System? The Federal Reserve System is also known as the Fed. As you probably know, probably from the news, you've been hearing about Fed. When is the Fed going to lower the interest rate? Or when is the Fed going to raise the interest rate? Obviously, Fed is a very important governmental body. They act as a secondary money market. So the Fed can loan money to the bank. So the Fed acts as the banker's bank. So if the bank needs to borrow money, they can borrow money from the Fed. And also the Fed can buy or sell loans between Fed and the bank. In terms of controlling the supply of money, Fed is also involved in the control of supply of money into the economy. So the Fed's function is to control the economy so it doesn't get overheat, and also to stimulate the economy when it is cooling down. So some of the ways that the Fed can change the economy or influence the economy, there are basically three things that the Fed can do. First thing that the Fed can do is to adjust the discount rate. See, when the discount rate goes up, it makes it more expensive to borrow money from the bank. So to an average consumer, when it is more expensive to borrow, they spend less. So when they spend less, the economy slows down. So if the economy is overheating, the Fed will raise the interest rate. But if the economy is cooling off, the Fed needs to stimulate the economy. The way the Fed is going to stimulate the economy is like what the Fed did recently because of the coronavirus pandemic. The Fed cut the interest rate all the way down to zero. The purpose of that is when it makes the cost of borrowing money cheaper, people are more likely to spend. People will spend more. When people spend more, it has the effect of stimulating the economy. So the second way the Fed can slow down or can stimulate the economy is by changing the bank's reserve. See, every bank must have a reserve. The bank cannot loan more money than what the Fed allows them to loan. So every bank is required to have a reserve. So if the Fed reduces the bank's reserve, that means that the bank has more money to loan to the public. When the bank has more money to loan to the public, more consumers will borrow money. And when there's more consumer borrowing money, it stimulates the economy. So when the economy is overheating, what would the Fed need to do when the economy is overheating? The Fed would need to increase the bank's reserve. Because when the Fed increases the bank's reserve, that means that the bank has less money to loan to the average consumer. And when the average consumer has less money that they can borrow, they spend less. So the economy cools off. So by controlling the supply and demand of money, the Fed can actually control the economy. The third way that the Fed can control the economy is by selling or buying government bonds. The safest investment in the world is government bond. So if the Fed wants to take money from the economy, now if the Fed wants money to flow out of the economy when the economy is overheating, what does the Fed do? The Fed will sell bond, because when the Fed sells bond to the public would have to pay the Fed for the bonds. So the money comes back to the Fed. There is less money in the economy. It slows down the economy. On the other hand, when the Fed wants to stimulate the economy, Fed will want to do just the opposite. Fed will want to buy back buy back all the bond. So when the Fed buys bond, Fed has to pay money to the public. So when Fed pays money to the public, Fed actually pumps in more money into the economy. That's how Fed control the economy, by selling or buying bonds. What is Federal National Mortgage Association? That's FNMA, also known as Fannie Mae. So Fannie Mae was created in 1938 during the Great Depression, when President Roosevelt was the president at that time. And the purpose of Fannie Mae was to provide loans that otherwise was not available before the reform. Before there was Fannie Mae, it would take about 50% down payment just to get a loan. So Fannie Mae deals primarily with FHA and VA insured loan. That's the purpose of Fannie Mae. So it acts as a secondary market for FHA insured and VA insured loan. What is the Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation, FHLMC, also known as Freddie Mac? Unlike Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac only deals with conventional loan. What is a conventional loan? Conventional loan is a loan that is not insured by the government. So if somebody defaults on a conventional loan, the bank cannot go to the government for help because it's not insured by the government. Freddie Mac only deals with conventional loan, but not just any type of conventional loan. Freddie Mac only deals with residential conventional loan, and it provides the secondary market for residential conventional loan. What is RESPA? RESPA stands for Real Estate Settlement Procedure Act. The only thing that you want to remember about RESPA for example purposes is that RESPA prohibits kickback. What is a kickback? An example of a kickback would be, for example, if a real estate agent, you refer one of your borrowers or one of your buyers to a mortgage lender or mortgage officer, and your borrower actually got a loan through that mortgage officer, and that mortgage officer gave you a referral fee, and that referral fee is illegal under the RESPA law. Why is that illegal? Well, RESPA prohibits kickback. So what is a kickback? A kickback is money that you received in a real estate transaction where you perform no services. You see, when you refer your buyer to go see a mortgage officer, by referring your buyer to see their mortgage officer, you perform no services. You did not perform escrow service. You did not perform appraisal service. You did not perform notary service. You perform no service. When you perform no service and you receive compensation in a residential real estate transaction, you receive a kickback, and a kickback is illegal. A kickback doesn't have to be in the form of money. It can be anything of value. Say, for example, you refer a customer to a mortgage lender, and in exchange, the mortgage lender book you a 6 days vacation in Hawaii. That is a kickback because it can be anything of value. So that 6 days of vacation in Hawaii is something of value to you. One thing I want to add is that the RESPA law prohibiting kickbacks, it's only applicable to certain type of properties. It's only applicable to 1 to 4 unit residential property as well as mobile homes. It does not apply to commercial property. So for example, if you have a buyer who needs a loan, you refer this buyer, and the buyer is going to need the loan to buy a commercial property, for example. Now, because commercial property is not covered by RESPA, so when you refer this buyer to go see their mortgage officer to get a loan, it is legal for you to get referral fee from the mortgage officer because residential properties is not within RESPA. RESPA only applies to residential properties and not commercial property. Therefore, it is legal to get a kickback in a commercial versus residential. This is the end of episode 20